Hello and welcome to my studio. I'm Noemi from Pigeon and today I'm going to show you how I made this scarf. This scarf has a little bit of a checkered pattern on it. It's very subtle, but if you look at it in real life you can see it. If you saw my Halloween video you would have seen this scarf before. I mentioned in it that I've already tried to make a video for this, but I had some trouble trying to explain how to do it, so today I think I've got the way to explain it. Alright, so let's straight into it. Sorry guys, I forgot to mention in the intro that for this you'll need to know how to cast on, cast off and knit, and if you don't know how to do that, go check out this video first. And you'll need to know how to purl stitch, and with that stocking and rib stitch. So if you don't know how to do that, go and check out that video up here too. So with this we are going to go back to basics a little bit. We do need to go back to stocking stitch. This is a normal stocking stitch. That's one side of it, and the other side of it looks like this. So I call this side the wave side because it looks like waves, and I call this side the V side. So I'm going to be drawing this to explain it a bit better. The V side of a stocking stitch looks like this. The wave side looks like this. So that's the simple stocking stitch. That's one row purl, one row knit. One row knit, that was just the one row of knit. I'm going to turn around and you're going to see these are the waves that I described earlier. So when you see if you're doing a normal stocking stitch and you're seeing the waves, that tells you you need to do a purl stitch next. So when you come to the end of the row and you need to know which one to do next, if you've forgotten or you just restarted after leaving it for the night, so you turn it around, you get it prepared to start. If there's V's, that tells you you need to do a knit stitch next. If it looks like this, then that's the waves. That's what I call the waves, and that is when you do a purl stitch next. So I'm just going to do one more row of knitting, and then we're going to move on to rib stitch, because that's when it becomes a little bit more complicated. That's when we're going to start seeing the beginnings of the checkers. So with a rib stitch, it's 2 stitch purl, 2 stitch knit, and so it'll look like this. So this is my example. I don't know how well you'll be able to see it because it's quite a dark yarn, but these are the V's, and here if you pull it apart a little bit you can see the waves. So I'm doing a rib with 2 and 2 because there's only 10 stitches on this, but so 2 knit, then you pass it around, and then 2 purl, and then yarn over back to the back, and then 2 knit, and then back to the front, and then 2 purl. You can see the ones that have just been knitted look different to the ones that have just been purled. You can see the loop on this side, and these ones have the beginnings of the V. So if you forget where you're at, just look at and to see if there's the loops. Okay, so I've just turned it around. It's a bit harder to see because we've just started it, but the loops are the waves, right? So here we need to purl. Knit for 2 because there's no loops. So if you have a lost count, you just go back to what it looks like. So If you lost count and it looks like this, then you knit. If you lost count and it looks like this, then you purl. So now we have the V's, 1, 2, and then the waves, 1, 2, V's, 1, 2, waves, 1, 2. When we are doing the checkered one, I'm going to do 4 stitch purl, 4 stitch knit, and then I'm going to reverse stitch every 5 rows. I'll explain how to reverse the stitch now. Got the V's, a whole row of it, and then I'll do a couple of rows, 3 rows, and then wave. And then we could reverse it again. Gives you the different textures. So I'm going to do just 3 rows of stocking stitch, and then I'll explain how to reverse it. See, I've just done 3 rows of stocking stitch, so right now you're seeing the V's all on one side, and on this side you're seeing all the waves. So here is an example of me reversing the stocking stitch, just because I wanted it to come in around my wrist. These are my hand warmers. If you haven't seen that, you can go check it out there. I did, I don't know, 5 rows or something of stocking stitch, and then on my last row of doing knit, which this is what I just did then, I just did some knits, turned it around, and instead of doing purl, which is what you would want to do because that is what the waves mean when you're looking at it, we're going to do another row of knit. And it's just going to mean that you get a different texture. You're going to get the V's on the wave side, and you're going to get the waves on the V's side. And then I'll just do another row so you can sort of start seeing the beginning. That's the beginning of the waves. I'm going to do one more row, this time purl, so you can really see the contrast. There you go. So, these waves. So we're starting to get a really good, interesting pattern here because I've just been doing different styles. By reversing it, you're getting a similar look to that, just in the vertical rather than the horizontal. When you're doing checkered, you're using everything on this page. You're using a rib stitch, but you're doing 4 instead of 2. So, and then wave for 4. And you're doing that for 5 rows. I'll just do it for 4 because there's no room. And then we reverse it. So, and then, and that is how you get the texture. It becomes a bit lost in here, but hopefully now that I show you this, you'll understand. So these are all rows of rib, but every 5 rows I've reversed the stitch. And that is how you get that. I'm going to cast on 12 stitches, so if you want to follow along, do that. We'll start with 4 knit, okay? For knit, we're doing the rib at the moment, so bring it over and purl for 4. Just purled 4, as you can see from the waves. That's the V's, that's the waves. So back to knit. Three, 4, and now we turn it around. So right now we've done this one, okay? So we want to keep going. We're not reversing yet. So we're still continuing on because I need to do 5 rows before I reverse the stitch. So, and I've done 2 so far. So if you lose count, this first row of waves here, that's the cast on, so that doesn't count. So you go 1, 2, that's 2 rows. So I'm going to just continue to rib stitch for another 3 more rows, okay? I'll come back when I've done that. So I've done 5 rows now. On the next row, we're going to be reversing the stocking stitch. Now I said knit 2 rows of knit in a row. It doesn't necessarily mean 2 rows of knit. We are reversing the stocking stitch. We're doing the opposite. When I told you if you see a wave, you purl. Well, this time when you see a wave, you're going to knit, and when you see a V, you're going to purl. So it's only for 1 row as well. This isn't a complicated thing to knit, but it does get confusing because you have to keep counting and you have to keep reversing the stitch. So don't do it if your mind isn't 100% on this. So this is where it continues the confusion sometimes. See here, it would be really easy to think that that would be the same as that because you can see the waves, but if you pull down a little bit, you can see where the V's are starting. So the second row after you've reversed it, you just need to make sure you're pulling it down and being extra careful. So now we are continuing the stocking stitch. So back to if you're seeing waves, purl, and when you see this, just make sure you are pulling it down to make sure that those are V's. They are not waves. So then 4 knit, 4 purl, and that is basically it. You just keep going like that. You just have to make sure you're keeping on top of your counting of the rows. Now, when you're doing a scarf, you do exactly the same thing. What you want to make sure is you have a multiple of 4 when you're casting on, because you don't want to end up with like 2 at the end or 1 at the end on its own, you know. So I ended up doing 48 stitches on mine. You could do 40, you could do 44, you could do 20. It doesn't matter. It's up to you. It's just about making sure that if you divide it by 4, it's still a full number, not a decimal. I hope this was helpful, and you know, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. I will try and answer them for you. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my video, and if you do give it a go, feel free to send it to my socials. I will put them in the description. Feel free to give my video a like. It helps me out by telling YouTube that it's worth watching and worth recommending to more people. I upload every Sunday, so I hope to see you then. Bye!